Chapter 25 of the Boy Scouts' First Campfire. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Rachel. The Boy Scouts' First Campfire by Herbert Carter. Chapter 25 The Scoutmaster's Scheme. Smithy and the Jones boy watched their patrol leader with something more than ordinary curiosity, as Thad examined the two shining coins. And when the other even tried his teeth on each $half in turn, Davy gave an exclamation of delight, while the other scout was in a measure filled with sudden consternation. For both of them could understand what this meant, and that Thad felt more or less suspicious regarding the genuineness of the two coins. "He thinks they might be counterfeits, Smithy," said Davy, in low but thrilling tones. "Now, wouldn't that be a great joke if we found ourselves bunking on this old island, along with a lot of desperate bogus money makers? Oh, say, things are just turning out tremendous, and that's a fact. But I don't exactly know whether there'd be more fun staying here or taking that little voyage with the log." "That part of it has already been settled," remarked Thad, with a vein of authority in his voice, for he wanted Davy to understand that as a true scout he must always pay respect to the orders of his superior, and never try to evade a duty that had been imposed upon him. "Oh, all right, Thad," Davy replied. "I'm willing enough to try the swim; but say, what if they jump on you fellers while I'm away?" You would have thought from the patronizing manner of the Jones boy that upon his presence alone depended the safety of the group of scouts. Thad, however, knew Davy pretty well by this time, and did not take all he said seriously. "We'll have to manage to get on somehow," he said, "and perhaps, after all, the danger may not be so very great. If there are places for these two men to hide, why, seems to me we ought to be able to keep out of their sight some way or another." Smithy was not saying much, but it might be understood that he was doing a whole lot of thinking. This was certainly a novel experience for him. A short time before, and he had not really known what it was to associate with any boys, save a delicate little cousin away off in a city, and who was very girlish in all his ways. And here he was now, not only in the company of 7 healthy fellows, fond of fun and all outdoor sports, but a genuine scout in the Silver Fox Patrol, and facing danger with a bravery no one had ever dreamed he could display. That was why Smithy felt pleased, even while he at the same time experienced a touch of uneasiness because of the new developments that were constantly making their situation look more desperate. As Thad had discovered, under all that gentle exterior there beat a heart within Smithy that yearned to have its fair share of excitement. Reading Robinson Crusoe and Treasure Island might be all very well, but acting a part in a little bit of daring seemed much better. Thad bent down to assist Davy secure his clothes to the log. The Jones boy had waded in, and upon examining one side of the old tree trunk, as it floated buoyantly on the water, he found that there was just the nicest hiding place one could wish for, in the shape of a cavity well above the reach of the water. "You see, Thad," he explained, "it ain't going to be on the side that the waves beat against, and so my duds won't be apt to get very wet. The cutest pocket you ever saw, and it looks like it might just have been made specially for a feller that wanted to take a tour of the lake with his private yacht. Now, do I go, Thad? I'm ready, and only waiting for orders." "Then you might as well start, Davy, and if I was you I'd keep out of sight all I could. If they happened to spy you, and believed you were going for help, so that they might be captured before night came, it would go hard with you, perhaps." "I got your meaning, Thad," Davy replied, without showing the least concern, for he was a fearless chap, "which is, that they've got the boat, and could chase after me if they thought I was going to get 'em in a pack of trouble by flitting. Never you fear, I'll keep low down and out of sight." He thereupon proved how easy it would be to lie in a position where he could guide the floating log, and yet be out of sight from the side that was toward the island. "Oh, this is the greatest thing that's come my way for a long time," he said, as he walked further away from the shore, the water getting deeper all the time, until his body was very nearly all submerged. "And I'm ever so much obliged to you for giving me the chance. Thad, don't bother a thing about me. If some big mud turtle don't grab me by the toe and pull me down, I'll come out swimmingly, see?" Thad knew that he could depend on the Jones boy. When a fellow can even think to joke like that when facing danger of any sort, he certainly could not be feeling in a state of panic. "Now the breeze strikes me, fellows, and I'm off. I'd like to give a whoop. I feel so great, but something tells me that would be wrong. So just consider that's what I'm doing inside, anyhow. Good bye, boys, and I hope you pull through okay." Thad did not answer, for the simple reason that the log with its boyish freight was already so far away that he would have had to raise his voice to make Davy hear, and such a thing would be foolish when they wanted to keep as quiet as possible so as not to attract any attention. Standing there, they watched the strange argosy floating away on the dancing waves. Davy was urging it from the shore of the island as well as he could by swimming, and without showing any part of his person. "He's going to make that point all right," said Thad, knowing that the Jones boy's one fear had been lest he ground on the bar that put out there, and be compelled to show himself in order to push off again. "But you said it would be hours before he could even get to camp, didn't you, Thad?" asked Smithy. "The way he's drifting now, he'll surely be at the end of the lake in half an hour, and given 4 times as much to make his way around all the coves, would bring him to camp about noon, I reckon. Then if Giraffe starts out at once, and has fair luck traveling, he ought to get to Rockford in 2 hours, running part of the way, once he strikes the road." "That would mean 2 in the afternoon, then, Thad?" "About that, if all goes well," the other continued, as though mapping out the programme step by step. "Then give him a quarter of an hour to tell Mr. Hotchkiss the story over the wire, and after that the Faversham officers would have to come on here. But perhaps they might get a car to bring them along the road. It's not a first class auto road, but could be navigated, I guess. Say, by 4 o'clock they could be at our camp, Smithy." The other sighed. "That means something more than 6 hours for us to play hide and seek here on the island, doesn't it?" he remarked. But Thad saw with relief that Smithy was certainly showing less signs of alarm than he had expected, under the best conditions. "Well, if you were only as good a swimmer as you hope to be one of these days, Smithy," he remarked pleasantly, "we might try for the shore; but as it is, we've got to make the best of a bad bargain, and wait. You've got good sight, so suppose we try and see if we can tell what the boys are doing in camp. 2 pair of eyes ought to be better than 1, any day." "But honest now, I don't seem to see a blessed fellow there," declared Smithy, which was just what Thad himself had found out. "I can see the fire burning lazily, and the flag whipping in that splendid breeze, but as far as I can make out, the whole pack have deserted, and gone somewhere. Perhaps they're fishing." "You could see them on the bank if that were so, Smithy," remarked Thad. "Try again with another guess, and this time think well before you answer." "Well," remarked the new tenderfoot scout presently, after he stood there conjuring up his thoughts, "I remember that you told them something before we set sail on our trip." "Just what I did, and tell me if you can remember the nature of the task they were to handle during our absence," the scoutmaster continued. "Allan was going to show them some more interesting things about following a trail," Smithy immediately replied. "How to tell what sort of little animal, like a fox, a woodchuck, a mink, or a muskrat, or an otter had made the marks, what it was trying to do, and how it was captured by the men who make a business of collecting skins, or, as they call them, pelts." "Just so," Thad observed, "only it was to be this afternoon. Allan meant to show them all that. If you think again, now, Smithy, I'm sure you'll recollect there was another piece of scout business, and a very important one, too, that they were to practice this morning." "Yes, I remember it all now. Wig-wagging it was," the tenderfoot went on to say with eagerness, and not a little satisfaction, because he had recalled everything that Thad wanted him to. "Allan was to go up to the top of that little bare hill back of the camp, and 2 other of the fellows were to hike over to another about a mile or so away. Then they would exchange sentences by means of the signal flag, waved up and down and every which way, according to the alphabet used in the U.S. Signal Corps. And tonight the result was to be given you to correct." "I see your memory is in good working order, Smithy, for that is exactly what sort of a task I set the boys we left behind. And now I've just thought up a dandy scheme, that if it can only be carried out, my gain is just about 2 hours over Davy's best time, in letting our chums know what a hole we're in." Smithy looked interested. Indeed, whatever Thad did always excited his enthusiasm, for he believed the young scoutmaster to be the smartest boy he had ever heard of in all his life. "It's something to do with this same wig-wagging, Thad, I'm sure of that," he remarked, drawing a big breath in his new excitement. "Well, there's no use wasting any more time in beating around the bush, so I'll tell you right now what the idea is," Thad continued, smiling at the eagerness of his comrade. "Suppose I could climb to the top of some tree, and attract the attention of Allan as he stood on that bald hill, which is in plain sight from here. Don't you understand that by making use of my handkerchief and the code, I might be able to tell him what's happened, and get him to send Giraffe to Rockford so as to call the Faversham chief over the phone?" Smith's face was wreathed in a smile of mingled admiration and delight, as he caught the full meaning of the bright thought that had come to the mind of his companion the scoutmaster. CHAPTER 26